Hi guys, and welcome back to Auto Social UK. You know on this channel that most of the time I cover the affordable stuff, but once in a while I feel like I need a little treat. And then suddenly you've got a completely different animal. Enter the Lexus LC500. This thing is an absolute beast. It's packing a V8 and it's one of the most comfortable, best cars that I've ever driven. And in today's video, I'm going to explain exactly why I've fallen in love with this wonderful Lexus. So if that sounds good, please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content, then this is the place to be. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So let's start by talking about the design, because you don't see many of these around. Pretty striking, right? It has that really sleek silhouette. Now it is actually a four-seater. You can barely put people in those rear seats. They're mainly for perhaps if you wanted to cart around the dog. But this is an amazing two-seater sports car which is bound to turn people's heads, especially when you hear it, which we'll do in a moment. That was a train, definitely not the V8. We'll listen to the V8 in a moment. So first of all, talking about design, massive, massive wheels. So this is actually the Sport Pro Plus pack, or something along those lines. I'll put it on the screen somewhere, and that gives you some whacking great two-tone forged 21-inch alloy wheels, which are pretty striking. I've been a little bit nervous with these because they are massive. I'm not too sure on the colour design between these. I feel like on this car, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail as we walk around it, there are elements which cheapen it. And I'm not quite sure what materials they've used because a lot of it feels a little bit plasticky. Moving around to the front, you've of course got some quite angry, mean headlamps. These are quite striking, and you've got this kind of almost like a Nike tick LED running light underneath the lights. Bits of plastic, see here, this bit round here that surrounds the lights. I don't really like the quality of that, and I do think it compromises it a tiny bit. Of course, it's a Lexus, so you've got a whacking great front grille. Overall, it's a pretty nice design, but again, as you get a little bit closer to it, you can kind of hear it's not actually made out of a metal or a chrome, it's a plastic, which I think is a very, very odd choice. Whether it's the fact that this car was already extremely, extremely heavy, big heavy engine, we'll talk about that. Maybe they tried to make it a little bit lighter by making elements in it out of some slightly cheaper materials. Obviously, very, very different cars, but when I recently went to see Lexus's new car, but it had this shaped wing mirrors, and I love this shaped wing mirrors. It just gives it a slightly more edgy, dynamic look. The car is accentuated with that muscular rear end. You've got the massive air scoop that comes along the side, around to the rear of the car. It's still pretty impressive from the back as well. When you come around the back, you get a little bit more of a hint of the Toyota in it. It feels, to me, very much like a Toyota Supra. It has that kind of sleek feel, not quite as aggressive as the front Lexus grille. Again, on these lights, you've got kind of like a tabletop design where they jolt out, but it's quite plasticky again. Like I say, from afar, you look at it and think, God, that looks amazing. You get a little bit closer and think, is that actually plastic? Down the bottom, you have got two exit exhausts, but the only thing about these exhausts are they are covers, and then the exhausts are behind there, which I think is a massive oversight.
Opt for the coupe version of the LC, and it's available with a hybrid 3.5 litre V6. However, the convertible, likely due to weight, is only available with one engine option.
The one that I'm spending time with is the V8. Now, what's a little bit strange about this V8 engine is it's actually naturally aspirated, which is quite rare nowadays.
It's actually a 5 litre 32 valve double over the head cam V8, which produces 471 brake horsepower. That means 0 to 62 miles per hour in 4.7 seconds and a top speed of 168 miles per hour.
Of course, the important thing about owning a V8 is that it sounds good. So what does the LC500 sound like? Well, let me turn it on and I'll show you.
aggressive sound on startup is as the valves open for maximum theatrical effect. Once they're closed again, things do soften up a little bit, but it's still more than enough to put a great big grin on your face.
The weather's bipolar and I've forgotten a hairband, but I feel like I could not have done this video without the roof down. So hey, we're just gonna have to deal with it. Yeah, and that's why we couldn't do this video with the roof up, because you do not get the full experience of that exhaust. And it's just part of it, isn't it? So I felt we had to have it down regardless of circumstances. Anyway, it could make a bit of a funny video if I end up getting drenched. Plus we're just about to drop this off as well, so if I end up handing it back drenched with pretty much no fuel left in it, I might not be getting a Lexus again, but I guess that's something I may have to risk. But anyway, let me compose myself, let me think about what we've came here to actually talk about, and that is this car. Well, I'm not going to hide the fact that I am in love with this car. It's absolutely fantastic. I guess sometimes I doubt that when it comes to the cars that I usually drive, which are your everyday cars, aren't they? They are affordable cars. I worry that when it comes to something which is so special like this, that I won't be able to appreciate it. I won't be able to tell whether I think it's a good car. But I have to say, from the moment that I jumped behind the steering wheel of the LC500, I knew instantly just the work that had gone into producing this car, because it's just amazing at pretty much everything. So it has that brutality about it. You heard when I drop a gear, it has the ability to be brutal. But actually, if you don't want to drive it like that, and if you just want to cruise around, it's fantastic at doing that as well. Plus you have the fact that it's just so very, very comfortable. It really is one of the most comfortable sports cars I've driven, but that hasn't come at a compromise of driving kind of engagement as well, because though it's super comfortable and you're hugged in on the seats, it's still really, really responsive in its steering, it's sharp in its handling, and we have to also say that this car, it's pretty big, right? It's a big car, but it doesn't feel like that when you're driving it on the roads. The turning circle is actually quite impressive for a car of its size, and just when you're around like even these back roads now, though it feels like it should be bigger, you just feel like you can dart around like it's a much smaller car. Did anyone else just hear that bird? It actually just scared the hell out of me. It's just been one of those cars that's made me realise why you spend so much money on a car like this, because originally I thought £115,000, I mean that's what this one is, which is the top spec car. That is a lot of money. There's a lot of cars that you could get for similar money. So why would you invest in a Lexus if you had that money to spend? And I think as soon as you start driving it, you realise exactly why you would spend that money on a Lexus, because you get quality, but you just get that driving engineering. It's just so good on the roads. You've got just enough feel through the steering wheel and the wheels that you do feel the bumps in the road, and it makes you feel connected, but it's not thrashy. You're not thrashing around no matter how fast you're actually driving it. And something else that surprised me about this car as well is, as you can see, it's a bit damp on the roads. It's been raining, although it's not rained on me yet, which is a bit of a concern. I've probably got that still yet to come. Let's hope the fact that the roads are wet means that they've already had the rain here and we're not going to get it again. But what surprised me is the fact that I was a little bit concerned this is a rear-wheel drive. And when it comes to cars, especially cars fitted with big engines, I do get a little bit worried when it comes to rear-wheel drive, because I'm somebody that likes to be able to handle their power. I don't like a car which is out of control. I like something that I have kind of full control of. And despite the fact this is rear-wheel drive, I haven't at any point felt out of control. It sticks to the road, almost as if you'd expect a four-wheel drive car to stick. Even when you floor it, there's a little bit of squirm from the tyres as it kind of finds its feet, but the majority of the time it sticks really well. And I guess that's just altogether part of the refinement that I'm talking about. They've not just concentrated on making this a brutal sports car, they've also concentrated on just making this a good car, a really comfortable car, a car that handles well, but also a car that perhaps the wife that doesn't like driving cars quite so keenly would still be able to take out and feel comfortable behind the wheel. I guess it also has that cool factor as well. Whilst I've been driving this, people have stopped and they've spoke to me about it and they've said just how cool it is. But the nice thing is not everyone knows exactly what it is. So you have a few puzzled looks at people trying to work out, is it a really expensive car or is it not? Because I still think, despite Lexus now being in the UK for such a long period of time, not that many people are still aware of them, and they're still kind of rare to see out and about, and especially a car like this. Onto the interior, and it really is quite fancy in here. It's very classic, very old school. It has all of those old school quality elements. Everywhere you touch is adorned in leather. There's not much else in here which you won't find leather on. There's a few bits of chrome around the centre console, but everything else is super soft to the touch. This steering wheel, I don't usually like Lexus steering wheels, but you've got the massive paddle shifters behind, and it definitely suits the rest of the cabin. The thing with the Lexus LC, just like a lot of other Lexuses in the range, is they are set up for their target audience, and that means that you have far more buttons to touch and things to interact around with. The infotainment system is not my favourite. You do have to use this central kind of pad to move around the screen, and it's not ideal because it can be quite fiddly to use. You do have plenty of storage, including this centre console, which slides backwards first to reveal some cup holders, and then you can also lift it up, and then you've got some additional storage in there with some connectivity. Up the front you've also got another cup holder which you can pop out. Now the only problem with using this cup holder is when I had a drink in there, every time I went to collect my drink to drink it, I was hitting the mute button and I was suddenly muting my music, which wasn't exactly ideal. The seats are fantastic. They really are some of the best leather sport seats I have ever had the pleasure of driving in, and they make it such a pleasure to live with. This car already, when I talk a bit more about the driving, has a pretty kind of comfortable setup, but these seats help even more. And also, as an added bit of luxury, they're also electric and memory. The price starting in upwards of £95,000, the LC convertible definitely isn't achievable for everyone, but it's been nice for me to spend a week with this car and pretend like I had that money for a while. There's no denying that if you're looking for a V8 sports car, then it doesn't get much more special than the LC. I would far rather have one of these Lexuses over the Ford Mustang that I had the other week. It's just much better at being an all-rounder. It's comfortable for long drives, really high quality interior, but you still have that fantastic driving engagement. But let me know, would you rather have a Lexus LC or would you have a Ford Mustang? Pop it in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed the video, please go ahead and give a big thumbs up. And if you wanted to see more videos like this on my channel Auto Social UK, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Until next time guys, see you later.